talk about with the panel. Jack Kingston is back with us, joining the conversation. Also, CNN political commentators Simone Sanders, Kayleigh McEnany, and Angela Rye. Also, Carl Bernstein is back with us. Kayleigh, you and I were talking before we went on the air. You were saying how the crowd was very different this year than it was last year. Talk about that a little bit.
Undoubtedly. And I think that was almost emblematic in Steve Bannon's first statement when he said, I was invited this year, because in previous CPACs, I feel like at least the populist wing of the party was not included. This time, to have a room that applauded when you talked about economic nationalism and these like kind of blue collar ideas, it was very different. It was about half young people, which is usually the case, but the other half were kind of the excluded wing of the Republican Party and the wing that put President Trump over the top.
And Jack Kingston, I mean, this is now Donald Trump's Republican Party, but it is, I mean, in terms of like conservative orthodoxy, economic nationalism, you know, against trade, that free trade, that's,
you know, it is interesting because I was there last year and I was there with Ted Cruz, and it was his home audience. It was his home court. Donald Trump came in third in the straw poll, which Ted Cruz just ran away with the straw poll last year. But what Trump talked about at the beginning of his speech is, I had come here several years ago, and then I came here 2 years ago, and it seemed like it was official consummating the relationship that I've proven now that I'm a conservative. You and I together are doing a movement. This is a big movement. He talked about, I am fighting for you. Those are words that people love.
Do you believe he's really a conservative?
I actually think he has grown into being a conservative. I don't know that, you know, I think he took a while to figure out exactly, you know, maybe where he was heading, and I mean over a decade's period of time. But I think now if you look at his cabinet and you look at him keeping campaign promises as compared to so many of the other Republican presidents that we've had, well, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it later. Right now, what we're seeing is a president who can't wait on Congress, a president who's moving along with his agenda rather than carefully trying to orchestrate and get everybody on the same page and be happy.
So, Simone, I mean, did you hear anything from this president that you as a Democrat can work with?
No. I mean, when Donald Trump talks about trade, for example, you know, clearly Senator Sanders is very strong on free and fair trade. That's something Donald Trump talks a lot about. But when we get down into the details of trade, that's where the questions differ. Look, I think that the conservatives have ceded the ground to Donald Trump here. I think instead of fighting him where it's necessary and when it's necessary, they've totally ceded the ground and just let Donald Trump come in and take over. So now conservatism doesn't look like what it usually looked like. It looks like Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, the party of Ronald Reagan, you know, as we've been talking about, seems to have disappeared.
Well, and one of the things that is interesting to me, you started that segment talking about, it sounded like he was back on the campaign trail. It absolutely did. He's back saying hell. He's back talking about drug dealers and criminals, etc. One of the most divisive things I think he said today is, you finally have a president. It took you a long time. It's patriots like you that made it happen. Well, he's basically going back to campaign 2012, where he's undermining the president who just left. So he's not even sounding like the country's chief diplomat. He's sounding like candidate Trump.
I got to take a quick break. I want to have everybody to hold their thoughts and bring in Carl as soon as we come back from the break. We'll talk more about President Trump's speech today and the agenda he laid out, vowing again to deliver on his core campaign promises, including